I want to share some thoughts on the crisis going on in the UK, and that is the fuel crisis. And me, as a person, a non-specialist in government, I have my own specialisms. Government is not one of them. But as a person who doesn't specialize in all of these things, yet I could propose a very simple solution, and I'd like to give some ideas. Now, this just goes to show how such a crisis, no wonder people spin off into conspiracy theories, because they feel the government just is either totally incompetent, or then they can't be that stupid, so there must be some people assume there must be some malintent, some kind of this must be by design, or at least they're going with the flow. This is with their blessing, so to speak. Though everybody should know that, well, in the last few days, what had happened was the media aired a report saying there is a fuel shortage. Firstly, I'd like to say I feel that such things, the media, I'm totally for the primacy of freedom of speech. However, certain things like this should carry legal repercussions. People shouldn't be allowed to just create havoc and mayhem by just posting something. I don't understand how the media has the authority and the audacity to do something like that, because they know very well what will ensue. Mayhem, fights, people getting injured, people struggling, the whole country going into potential disarray. This is inevitable. This is the same country that went wild trying to buy toilet paper. I mean, toilet paper for all things. And what do you think would happen if fuel was brought into the question? The blood in the veins of this country. I mean, nothing can move without fuel. So if a people who became almost incapacitated by the thought of not having bog roll, we're seriously, that is not a crisis, okay? If a people that became so, in a state of confusion and mayhem with that thought, how do you think that same people would behave if it was something as essential as fuel? Now, that, to me, this is why I do feel that these things ought to be legal repercussions. And there was something, the news article said something like, I think BP outlets, out of their 1,200, 20 had shut down. 20 out of 1,200 BP. How does that even make news? Okay, it's now, the moment you put that in the press, everybody en masse started to just fuel up, which beyond the just major irregularities. So there isn't that much fuel available, not on a daily basis. So naturally, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, a fuel shortage, or you've exacerbated it to the power of 10. So that's firstly, I can't believe that certain things can just go unchecked like that. There ought to be repercussions. Secondly, the government, I really don't understand this government. They claim that, okay, what we're going to do is bring the military in, the army. Okay, fair enough. That's something. But if you're going to do it, show it to start off with. Don't just, okay, you've said it once. Okay, fair enough. But show some results, show something, because you're trying to restore a calm, and actions speak louder than words. Then saying, oh, well, we have 100,000 shortages of drivers, and what we're going to do is we're going to allow for 5,000 visas for up until Christmas from Europe. I mean, what kind of what kind of a preposterous, ridiculous remedy is that? Next, they're saying, okay, we might, and this is a good one, we might, a pay bump for HGV drivers, tankers. Fair enough. And then their wisdom strategy, we're going to send out 1 million letters to HGV, to tanker drivers, to come back to work, please. I mean, did I don't know, these politicians, parliamentarians, did they just ask their primary school kids to just write up some note strategies for them to resolve a national crisis, and they just brought that in? Write 1 million letters, write lots of letters. Okay, how many? 1 million. I mean, it's so laughable if it wasn't so sad simultaneously. So here's a simple thing that many of you have probably by now watched what's been covered. Ex-tankers, these people who drive these petrol tanks, giving some interviews and saying why they've left the job, that many of them, they have to be on the road for an excess amount of hours. They have to sleep in that tin of a lorry they have. It's cold. It's not soundproof. They have to be careful that they do get enough rest. Otherwise, they could run someone over, and running someone over with a HGV, a heavy goods vehicle, a lorry, excuse that's potential manslaughter. I mean, that's not a little joke. I mean, you run someone over, you're most likely going to kill them. So that kind of a responsibility, they have to sleep rough. They have to take a leak in a bottle. They have to wipe themselves with baby wipes to freshen up. They have to just have cold food. These kind of standards. And then I was reading this Twitter feed where this ex-driver, this tanker driver, was saying that, look, by day 6, you just look like a tramp. And then because you look like a tramp, everyone just treats you like a tramp. And so why would you want that? Let's be honest. So here's something simple. A simple solution would have been, look, up and down the country, we've already got we've got service stations, services. All of these services already have these budget hotels. They all have them, these Premier Inns and these budgets, these kind of, if you stop off at the services. And the HGV have their own separate car park. All they had to do was just announce, one, some enhanced security at the car park for the HGV in these services, and 2, the government subsidizes, let's say, I don't know, 85% of these tankers drivers, or these HGV drivers, their stay at these budget hotels on a first come first served basis. So that's their stay and food covered, right? That's all. And the infrastructure is all in place. They've already got it up and down the country. That money that they're subsidizing, they are paying back to this hotel, which is then having to pay its staff and pay taxes, and it's trickling back into the economy. And it would also boost competition for these hotels, because right now they don't get that many people staying there. They're these, crappy little budget ones. And so it would boost that. And then the second thing they had to just announce was that they would just set up some kind of like a regulatory or a complaints board, a commission, that if HGV drivers are facing any slack, they can report it to them, and they just announce that we will be treating this very seriously. How simple is that? And the third thing, a little pay bump. Let's say they raise them, I don't know, $5,000 a year or whatever it was. You would immediately restore so much confidence into the public. Can you imagine the amount of respect the public would gain if, one, that a government actually controlled a national crisis, and 2, they did it with compassion and care? They offered these people warm places to stay, warm food. They set up something for their complaint. Ultimately, people just want someone to care. And that's And it's amazing that how the obvious things are completely, just blindsided, and we'll write letters, we'll do millions of letters, we'll call the army in. I'm fine, call the army in, but it makes you think that that's not rocket science, just coming up with these kind of solutions. And you would become this would become an international example of how to handle crises. But yeah, I just had to say that. So I guess the day I become prime minister, at least we'll know how to handle these kind of problems. Yeah. What is interesting is some people have triggered conspiracy theories. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist myself, although I do find the point that they said, that why is it that there was a shortage concern in the United States not so long ago, and so many months later it's in the UK when they're unrelated. And I believe in some other countries it's been sparked as well. That is it all really the same issue? Or some people are saying it's been engineered to get rid of near to expired fuel, because fuel has not been as consumed during the lockdown. Now, I don't know about this by design, but the fact that the government or people in authority could maybe be involved in some backhanders and allowing this to happen once it comes to if it's of some interest to them. 1 2 ka 4, as Anil Kapoor would say. I find that palatable, that could be happening. I don't think the whole thing is necessarily done by design, but as it emerges and are certain people capitalizing, and then they're allowing some hush hush and I scratch your back and you scratch my back, man. I wouldn't put it beyond the people. But yeah, look at that. The candidacy is coming up, people. I'll let you know if I ever become prime minister. The GDP will be based on happiness. What do you say?